They mocked the poor-looking black man at the reunion, until 5 supercars pulled up for him. The Georgia sun rose slowly, casting a golden hue across the small town of Fairgrove. The breeze whispered through the pine trees lining Willow Creek Road, where old farmhouses sat like tired witnesses to generations gone by. A cracked Ford Ranger rumbled its way past them, spitting soft puffs of smoke as it struggled up a slight hill. Behind the wheel sat a man in a faded gray shirt, dark jeans and boots that had seen too many winters. Jamal Carter didn't look like someone worth noticing. He squinted against the morning light as he pulled into the dusty gravel lot beside Fairgrove Community Hall. The large banner over the entrance read, "Carter Family Reunion, 50 years strong." Balloons danced in the breeze. Laughter floated through the air from early arrivals setting up folding chairs and food trays. SUVs and luxury sedans were already lined up along the curb. Jamal's truck coughed once and fell silent. He took a deep breath, looked at himself in the rearview mirror, and gave a slight nod. The man looking back at him had a tired face, full beard, and eyes that held both sorrow and strength. He grabbed his bag, a simple canvas satchel, and stepped out. People turned. Conversations dipped for half a beat before picking back up. No one rushed over. Jamal walked past his cousin Tasha without her recognizing him. She looked at him blankly and then nudged her sister. "Is he with catering?" "No, girl. Probably somebody's friend from work or something." Jamal made his way toward the check-in table, where an older man wearing aviator shades and a red polo shirt was busy taking names. "Name?" he asked flatly, not bothering to look up. "Jamal Carter." The man paused. Then his head shot up, squinting as if trying to place the face in front of him. "Jamal?" he said, dragging out the last syllable. "As in JC?" Jamal gave a tired smile. "Yeah, it's been a while." "Man, you got old," the man laughed, though it didn't sound kind. "Thought you were dead or locked up or something. Ain't heard a word from you in what, 15 years? Jamal shrugged. "Life takes you places." "Well, welcome back," the man muttered, waving a hand vaguely toward the lawn. "Food starts at noon. Main family table's already got names. You can find a seat somewhere." Jamal nodded and moved on. A group of teens glanced at him, whispering. One of them laughed. "Looks like he came to fix the pipes, not attend the party." Across the lawn, family members mingled in clusters. He saw familiar faces, Aunt Regina in her Sunday church hat, Cousin Andre in a new white linen suit, Marcus, oh Marcus, leaning against a shiny black Escalade with his arm around his new wife, flaunting gold chains and a Rolex. Jamal moved quietly, unnoticed, to a bench near the back. He sipped from a bottle of water and watched the family he once knew celebrate everything they thought mattered. Fancy degrees, big houses, promotions, cars, children in prep schools. And none of them knew the man sitting a few feet away from them had built something far more powerful than they imagined. He wasn't here for recognition, not even for forgiveness. He was here because today would have been his grandmother's 100th birthday. The reunion was held in her honor, and despite everything, he wanted to be here, for her. "Jamal?" He turned. A soft voice cut through the noise. Aunt Loretta. Her hair was silver now, tied back in a bun. Her steps slower, but her eyes, those warm hazel eyes, lit up when they met his. "Baby, is that really you?" Jamal stood. "It's me, Auntie." She rushed forward as fast as she could and wrapped her arms around him. "Lord have mercy. I thought I'd never see you again." "I didn't plan on missing so many years." She stepped back, scanning his face. "You look tired. You okay?" "I'm good," he said, then smiled. Really, just wanted to be here, for Grandma. Loretta's eyes moistened. She'd be proud. She always said you were different, said you'd surprise them one day. Jamal didn't answer. Instead, he helped her to a shaded table and sat beside her. But the warmth didn't last long. Loretta, who's that? Someone barked from behind. It was Marcus, his cousin, still as arrogant as ever. She waved him off. That's Jamal. You remember? Marcus snorted. Barely. Damn, thought he was a mechanic or something. My man pulled up in a trash can on wheels. A few laughs echoed nearby. Jamal stood slowly, offering a tight smile. Hey, Marcus. Marcus crossed his arms. So where you been hiding, man? Out in the sticks? What you do now? Landscaping. More laughter, this time louder. I'm between projects, Jamal said simply. Yeah? Well, let me know if you're hiring. Might need someone to shine my rims, Marcus said, throwing his head back and laughing. Jamal's expression didn't change. Aunt Loretta, however, was trembling. You don't have to do this, she whispered. I'm not, Jamal replied. Let them talk. Lunch came. Jamal sat on a folding chair near the edge of the lawn, eating quietly while stories of wealth and success buzzed around him. He could have told them about the 3 companies he owned, the software used by 3 Fortune 500 firms, or the fact he was one of the largest anonymous donors to youth programs in Georgia. But he didn't, because that wasn't why he came. As the sun climbed higher, so did the egos. One by one, family members took the mic, bragging about careers, vacations, and properties. Then Marcus stepped up. I just want to say, he began, ain't nothing like family, and nothing like success. Some of us out here really doing things. Real estate, crypto, legacy. He paused, scanning the crowd, then glanced at Jamal with a crooked smirk. And others? Well, some folks just here to get a free plate. The crowd erupted in laughter. Jamal didn't flinch. He locked eyes with Marcus, calm as ever. But deep inside, something shifted. Because this time, he wasn't going to let it slide. Not much longer now, he thought, as he glanced at his phone. And that's when his assistant's message lit up the screen. Convoy's 5 minutes out. You sure about this? Jamal smiled, slipped the phone back into his pocket, and whispered to himself. Yeah. Let's show them. The sun was now high above Fairgrove, casting harsh light on the gathering crowd. Sweat rolled down necks and dampened collars, but the Carter family reunion carried on in full swing. Jamal sat beneath the old oak tree near the back of the yard, his folding chair creaking every time he shifted. From his vantage point, he could see it all. The clicks, the posing, the judgment hiding behind designer sunglasses. But he wasn't here to win anyone over. He reached for the bottle of water at his feet, cracked it open, and took a slow sip. His phone buzzed in his lap. One glance. The message was short. 3 minutes. He placed the phone back into his pocket, took a deep breath, and scanned the lawn again. From across the way, Marcus was still holding court. Surrounded by a few of the younger cousins and some uncles who had spent the last hour singing his praises, Marcus strutted around like he owned the block. I told y'all, he said, holding up his keys. I just closed on a beach house in Hilton Head. Ain't nothing like passive income. A round of applause followed. One of the teenagers clapped extra loud, probably hoping to ride shotgun in the Escalade later. Jamal watched quietly. Then came the microphone again. Andre, the family's self-proclaimed MC, grabbed it with a wide grin. All right, y'all, he said into the speaker. Now's the part where we recognize some of the family's biggest success stories. We've already heard from Marcus. killing it in real estate and finance. We've got Keisha over there doing her thing in corporate law. Who else want to step up and tell us what they've been up to?" There was silence. A few people murmured. Some laughed. Andre scanned the crowd, and his eyes landed on Jamal. "Hey," he said, lifting the mic a little higher. "You, man in the corner. You said your name's Jamal, right?" All heads turned. Jamal looked up slowly. He didn't move, didn't respond. "You've been real quiet," Andre continued. "Tell us what you've been doing." "Don't be shy, man. Ain't nothing wrong with putting yourself out there." More murmurs. A few chuckles. Jamal stood slowly, brushing his jeans off with one hand. "I'm not really big on speeches," he said, his voice calm and steady. "But you got something to say, don't you?" Andre goaded. "We want to know what you've been doing these last, 15 years? Jamal paused, considering. Before he could speak, Marcus chimed in, voice oozing sarcasm. "Let me guess. Traveling the country, fixing carburetors?" Laughter rolled through the crowd again. It hit harder this time. People weren't just laughing at a joke. They were laughing at the man. A man they didn't know but had already decided didn't belong. Jamal raised an eyebrow and stepped forward. "Actually," he said evenly, "I've been building something." "Oh, here we go," Marcus said, smirking. "Building what? A shed?" Jamal ignored him. "A team," he continued. "A company, a purpose." Andre raised the mic. "And what kind of company is that?" Before Jamal could answer, a sound pierced the afternoon air. Engines, but not just any engines. A deep, refined, growling harmony of horsepower. Heads turned. Down the road, the shimmering heat made it hard to see clearly at first. But within seconds, the outline of 5 sleek vehicles came into view. They weren't just cars. They were machines. Sculpted, roaring, commanding. The lead car was a matte black Lamborghini Aventador. Behind it, a blood-red Ferrari 812 Superfast, a royal blue McLaren, a white Rolls-Royce Cullinan, and closing the convoy, a gunmetal gray Bugatti Chiron. Gasps rippled through the crowd like wind through tall grass. "What in the world?" someone whispered. The cars pulled into the lot with perfect precision, gravel crunching under the weight of money and power. Doors lifted and opened in near-silent unison. Out of the Lamborghini stepped a tall woman in a sharp black suit, mirrored sunglasses catching the sun. She walked with authority, clutching a tablet and glancing around. Out of the Rolls-Royce came 2 men in matching charcoal suits, scanning the crowd like they were on security detail. The McLaren's driver remained seated, engine humming softly like a beast waiting for orders. The woman in black strode across the lawn, stopping in front of Jamal. "Mr. Carter," she said crisply, "we're ready for you. Your 3:30 with the board was moved up. Your jet will be wheels up by 5. Shall I prepare the conference call on the way?" Jamal nodded. "Yes, Cassandra. And thank you." Cassandra turned to leave, but not before handing him a fresh suit jacket from the McLaren's trunk. "Boss, you'll want this." Jamal took it and turned toward the stunned crowd. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. Marcus's jaw was half open, his fingers twitching nervously near his Escalade keys, like he could somehow regain dominance with chrome rims alone. Jamal slipped on the jacket with practiced ease. He stood tall, shoulders back, looking out over the lawn. "I didn't come here to show off," he said, voice loud enough to carry. "And I didn't come for validation." He paused. "I came to honor Grandma." He looked toward the old framed photo of her on the memorial table, smiling, wrapped in a shawl, eyes full of grace. She never cared about clothes or cars. She cared about character. He scanned the crowd again. Most of y'all didn't recognize me. That's all right. I didn't come to be recognized. But let this be a reminder. Just because someone looks like they have nothing doesn't mean they are nothing. A hush fell over everyone. And then, as Jamal turned to walk toward the Lamborghini, Cassandra trailing behind, someone finally blurted out the question. Wait, who are you, really? Jamal stopped. I'm the founder and CEO of JC Systems. We develop AI technology and infrastructure for military contracts and Fortune 100 firms. He turned back just long enough to add, and we just closed a deal worth over $500 million. Gasps, audible, sharp. Marcus looked like he might faint. Jamal didn't smile. He didn't gloat. He just walked away. The doors of the Lamborghini closed with a soft click, and the convoy backed out and rolled off, engines purring like panthers, leaving behind a stunned silence. But that silence wasn't empty. It was filled with regret, shame, and awe. And Jamal never once looked back. The whispers didn't stop after Jamal's dramatic exit. In fact, they multiplied. As the sleek motorcade disappeared beyond the tree-lined road, the reunion's atmosphere shifted from festive to tense. A cocktail of confusion, shame, and disbelief hung over the backyard like a summer storm that hadn't broken yet. Folding chairs sat half-empty, soda cans untouched, and the playlist that had been thumping with 2000s throwbacks was now awkward background noise. Keisha, the high-powered attorney everyone loved to brag about, stood frozen with a paper plate of barbecue and coleslaw in her hand. She watched the cars disappear, her mind spinning faster than her case prep schedule. Jamal Carter, she whispered under her breath. JC Systems? Marcus hadn't moved from his spot. He was still gripping the Escalade key fob like a lifeline, his expression slowly hardening from disbelief to something uglier. Wounded pride. You believe that show? He muttered to no one in particular. Uncle Terry, always the skeptic, leaned over and asked, You think it's real? All that cars, assistants, billion-dollar company? Could be a setup, right? But before Marcus could feed that theory, Keisha cut in. It's not a setup, she said, sharp and sure. JC Systems is real. I've reviewed contracts from that company. They supply secure infrastructure to the Pentagon and several Fortune 100s. I just didn't know it was run by someone named Jamal Carter. Everyone turned to her. You're serious? Someone gasped. Dead serious, she replied. And if he really is the founder, we didn't just disrespect a successful man. We disrespected one of the most powerful black executives in America. A new silence fell. It wasn't just shame anymore. It was fear. Marcus laughed bitterly. Man, please. If he had all that power, what's he doing showing up looking like he just walked off a Greyhound? That's when Grandma Loretta spoke for the first time all day. Sitting quietly near the porch, wrapped in a faded shawl, she looked up from her rocking chair. Her voice wasn't loud, but it carried enough weight to hush everyone. Because y'all made him feel like that was the only way he'd be seen. All heads turned. I remember that boy, she said, pointing a shaking finger at the empty spot where Jamal had stood. He used to sweep this yard when he was 7, always quiet, always polite. But none of y'all ever looked at him long enough to see what was in him. Come on now, Grandma, Marcus tried to interject. No, hush your mouth, she snapped. You had plenty to say earlier. Now you can listen. She stood up slowly, taking her time. Her bones may have been old, but her eyes burned with clarity. Jamal's mother died of lupus when he was 10. His father left before he was born. And when he showed up here needing a place to belong, what did this family give him? Ridicule. Gossip. Second-hand clothes and first-rate judgment. She turned to Keisha. Do you remember what your mama said when he tried to sit at your table at Thanksgiving? Keisha looked away, ashamed. Yes, ma'am. She said, don't let that boy near the sweet tea. He might steal the sugar. And y'all laughed. The words hit like stones. Faces flushed. Smiles disappeared. The weight of years of microaggressions and dismissals began to settle across their chests. What if, Loretta continued, what if he didn't come here to show off? What if he just wanted to see if anything had changed? Keisha sat down, slowly, the plate of food sliding off her lap. Someone from the back asked, so what do we do now? No one answered, but meanwhile, across town, Jamal sat in the back of the Rolls-Royce Cullinan, phone pressed to his ear, looking out at the Georgia pines lining the back roads. His face was unreadable. They're in shock, Cassandra said on the call, exactly as expected. I didn't want a spectacle, Jamal murmured. You needed a reckoning. He didn't respond. They'll talk about this for years, Cassandra continued. The question is, what comes next? Jamal leaned back, eyes flicking to the ceiling. I need to think. Postpone the board call an hour. I'm not ready. You got it. As the line disconnected, Jamal looked at the driver. Turn around, he said. We're going back. The driver blinked. Sir? You heard me. The convoy slowed and executed a perfect U-turn on the narrow country road. Back at the reunion, Marcus was pacing near the grill. He kicked a cooler hard enough to send ice and bottles flying. This is ridiculous, he muttered. I've been working my ass off for years, and somehow he's the one in 5 supercars. What? We're just supposed to bow down now? Keisha looked up at him. It's not about bowing down. It's about realizing we've been looking at success through a broken lens. You talk loud, drive a big truck, wear a Rolex, but you've never built anything. Not like he has. Marcus scoffed. You siding with him now? I'm siding with facts. Before he could respond, the deep rumble of engines returned. All heads whipped around. It was the convoy again, the same cars. The same formation. They pulled into the yard, just like before. But this time, nobody dared move. The doors opened and out stepped Jamal. Alone, no assistant. She looked nervous. I thought Alicia told you. No, she didn't. Who made the change? I'm not sure. I just followed the update sent from VP Shaw's office. Marcus didn't say anything. He just turned and walked straight to Alicia's office. Shaw's playing dirty, he said before she even looked up. She didn't ask how he knew. Let me handle it. No, Marcus said. I got this one. He waited until the board members were gathered for lunch, then calmly entered the dining room. Hope I'm not interrupting, he said. Heads turned. I just wanted to clarify that I wasn't informed about the meeting this morning. And if this is how we operate, then let's be honest about who we're excluding. Shaw looked up from his plate, annoyed. Marcus, these things happen. We move meetings all the time. Sure, Marcus said, but I've been here 2 weeks and it's only ever happened to me. A hush fell over the room. Alicia stepped in. He's right, and it stops now. Shaw stood, trying to maintain control. This isn't personal, Marcus stepped forward. That's where you're wrong. For people like me, it's always personal. The silence was thicker than concrete. But Marcus didn't care. He'd said what needed to be said, and for the first time, he felt the ground beneath him start to shift. He wasn't just surviving anymore, he was pushing back. Marcus sat on the worn bench outside the building, phone in hand, barely breathing. His heart was still racing from what had just happened in that lunchroom. He had spoken out, stood tall, and called out Richard Shaw in front of some of the most powerful people in the company. And now, silence. No word from Alicia, no email, no acknowledgement. His thumb hovered over his phone as he debated texting her, but something told him to wait. Across the city, Alicia paced in her office. She had defended Marcus publicly, and while she didn't regret it, the fallout was already starting. HR had called. Shaw had sent a strongly worded email to the board, subtly suggesting that Marcus might be too emotionally reactive to represent the company. She poured herself a glass of water and stared at the skyline, wondering how to fight a battle that was happening behind closed doors. Later that evening, Marcus returned home to Isaiah and his mother's apartment. The apartment was small, 2 bedrooms with creaky floors, but it smelled like dinner and safety. Isaiah ran up to him with excitement. "Dad, guess what? I got picked for the school debate team." Marcus knelt and pulled him in. "That's my boy." Isaiah looked up. "Did they clap for you today?" Marcus chuckled, rubbing the back of his neck. "Some clapped." That night, Jamal made a call. It rang 3 times before the voice answered. "Hello?" "Grandma Loretta," Jamal said quietly. "It's me," she gasped. "Baby, are you okay? I'm fine. I wanted to say thank you for seeing me, even when no one else did." She smiled on the other end, eyes glistening. "I never saw a poor boy, Jamal. I saw a seed. And look what you've grown into." They didn't talk long. They didn't need to. But when Jamal hung up, he felt something settle inside him. Not closure, but purpose. And that purpose was about to shake the very foundations of the family that had once cast him aside. The next weekend, the Carter family group chat exploded. A sleek flyer circulated. JC Systems presents the Carter County Future Leaders Fund, $500,000 in scholarships for local youth. At the bottom, in elegant lettering, sponsored by Jamal Carter, CEO of JC Systems. Keisha stared at it on her phone in disbelief. "He used the family name?" Her mother, Veronica, texted back seconds later. "That boy's got nerve." But Simone, Marcus's fiancée, shot back her own message. "No, Veronica, that's called grace." Across town, Marcus was pacing in his home office. The hum of his gaming PC filled the room, but he wasn't playing. He was rereading emails, looking at LinkedIn, trying to understand how he missed it all. How had Jamal, quiet, odd Jamal, built a tech empire right under their noses? And worse, why had he done it without ever saying a word? Later that night, a small knock sounded on the Carters' front porch. Jamal stood there. This time he wore a black tailored suit, the kind you didn't rent. He looked clean-cut, calm, but there was a steel behind his eyes that hadn't been there before. Keisha answered the door. Her voice was hesitant. "Jamal, hey." "Hey," he said with a nod. "I wanted to speak to everyone, if they're home." They were all of them. Keisha, Marcus, Uncle Louis, Aunt Veronica, Cousin Derek. Even Grandma Loretta, who slowly made her way from the back bedroom with the help of her walker. Jamal didn't sit down. He stayed standing, glancing around the room. This was the same living room where he used to be told to eat last, to sit on the floor, to stay quiet while the grown-ups talked. Funny how the memories lived longer than the people who made them. "I wanted to come in person," he said, "because what I didn't do it to embarrass anybody." Veronica crossed her arms. "Really? Because it sure felt like a stunt. Jamal raised his brows slightly. You mean the same way laughing at someone for their clothes at a family reunion felt like kindness? She opened her mouth, then shut it. I'm not here for an apology, Jamal said. I've outgrown that. I'm here because, despite everything, this family is part of who I am. The same people who doubted me helped shape me. The silence, the dismissal. It lit something in me, and I made sure it never went out. There was a long pause. Then Derek scoffed. So now what? You're just gonna throw money around to prove something? Jamal turned to him, voice calm but sharp. If I wanted to prove something, I would have put my face on the banner. I didn't. I used the family name. Because this isn't about me. It's about giving kids who were once like me a shot. Even if their own people overlook them. Marcus finally spoke, quieter than usual. Why didn't you ever tell us what you were building? Jamal looked at him. Because it wouldn't have mattered. Not back then. And honestly, I liked building without the weight of your expectations. Without waiting for someone to finally say, Good job, Jamal. I gave that to myself. Loretta's voice cut through the quiet. You always had a light in you, baby. I'm just glad the world finally gets to see it. He softened at her words. She was the one person who never once treated him like less. Jamal stepped toward the fireplace mantel, where family photos were proudly displayed. He picked up a picture, one from when he was about 10, tucked in the corner of a family barbecue. In the image, everyone was laughing at something off-frame. Everyone but him. He set it back down. There's another part to the scholarship, he said. It's not just money. I'm launching a mentorship program. For every student we fund, they'll get matched with someone in the industry, real support, not just a check. Veronica finally let out a breath. That's big. It's necessary, Jamal said. Too many kids with potential fall through because they don't have anyone backing them. I know what that feels like. He turned toward the door. I didn't come here to rub anything in your face. I came to make sure the next Jamal doesn't leave this house feeling like a ghost. He paused, looked at Marcus. You asked why I didn't say anything before. Maybe I didn't have the words, or maybe I just didn't think they'd be heard. As Jamal stepped out into the evening air, the sound of cicadas rising in the trees, Marcus followed him onto the porch. Jamal, he said. Jamal didn't turn around, just waited. Marcus swallowed. You deserved better. Back then, at the reunion, all of it. I was a punk, still figuring out how not to be. Jamal turned his head just enough. That's on you. I know. They stood there, silent. Then Marcus offered his hand. Jamal took it. For the first time in years, a bridge began to form. Not built on guilt, but on truth. Later that night, as Jamal drove back to his Atlanta condo, he received a text from Keisha. I'm applying to work with your mentorship program. I want to help, if you'll let me. He smiled. People change, not always fast, not always all at once. But when they do, it starts with listening. And now, finally, they were beginning to hear him. The next morning, Jamal sat in a quiet corner booth of an upscale coffee shop tucked into downtown Atlanta. It was a minimalist, glass-walled cafe where the baristas knew his order by heart and left him alone. Outside, the city buzzed like usual, but inside, he was focused, tapping notes into his phone, sketching out the next phase of the mentorship initiative. His phone buzzed. Unknown number. He stared at it for a moment before answering. This is Jamal. A familiar voice came through, clipped and vaguely uncomfortable. It's Marcus. Jamal leaned back in his seat, eyebrows raised. Didn't think I'd hear from you so soon. I've been thinking a lot since last night, Marcus admitted. I talked to Keisha. She told me about the scholarship and the kids you're helping. It's powerful, man. Jamal remained quiet. I want in, Marcus said. Jamal narrowed his eyes, not out of suspicion, but curiosity. You mean like volunteering? No. I mean, yes, but more than that. I want to help build it. I've got connections in education tech, access to talent, data analysts, even seed-stage investors looking for something meaningful. I can bring value. That stopped Jamal cold. Of all the things he expected from Marcus, a business pitch wasn't one of them. Why now? Jamal asked. Because I finally pulled my head out of my own ego and realized I've been coasting while you've been creating. I'm not asking you to trust me blindly, Jamal, but I'm asking for a shot to earn it. There was a long pause before Jamal spoke. Come by the office Monday. We'll talk. As the call ended, Jamal stared out the window. He wasn't sure if Marcus's change was permanent or if this was just guilt talking, but it didn't matter yet. What mattered was whether his actions would match his words. 2 days later, JC Systems HQ was buzzing with activity. The scholarship launch had gone viral after a local news story ran a segment titled From Outcast to Game Changer, the Tech Tycoon You Never Saw Coming. Overnight, applications flooded the system. Guidance counselors were calling nonstop. Emails pinged every 5 seconds. In the middle of the chaos, Jamal moved with quiet focus, his custom sneakers barely making a sound across the polished floors. At exactly 10 a.m., Marcus walked in. He looked different, clean-cut, confident, dressed in business casual for the first time since his early sales days. But it wasn't just the clothes. There was humility in his eyes, intentionality in his handshake. Jamal led him into a glass conference room where 2 other team members waited. Sonia, the head of community partnerships, and Malik, the data strategist Jamal trusted with his life. Jamal opened the meeting with no preamble. This is Marcus Carter. He's got ideas about scaling the mentorship arm. I want to hear them. What followed surprised everyone. Marcus didn't overtalk. He didn't flex. Instead, he outlined a plan to partner with HBCUs, to integrate the scholarship pipeline with tech internships at Fortune 500s, to create a self-sustaining network that didn't just hand out opportunities, but built a culture of accountability and support. When he finished, the room was silent. Then Malik nodded slowly. I'll be honest, I thought this was going to be a waste of time. But that was sharp. Sonia added, We've been trying to get those partnerships off the ground for months. If you can actually deliver that, we're listening. Jamal didn't say much, but his expression had softened. Give him temporary clearance, he told Sonia. We'll evaluate in 30 days. Marcus nodded. Fair enough. But the twist didn't come until later that afternoon, when Sonia called Jamal into her office. You need to see this, she said, pulling up an email thread on her monitor. It was from a private equity group based out of Charlotte. Apparently, someone had reached out claiming to be Jamal's relative and warning them that JC Systems was unstable, its leadership more interested in social causes than profits, and subtly hinting at a potential insider scandal that could devalue the company. Jamal's jaw tensed. Who sent this? He asked. Sonia highlighted the email signature, Lewis Carter. Jamal exhaled slowly, his entire body tight with restrained anger. His uncle, the same man who mocked his shoes. The same man who called him nobody when he was just a boy, now trying to sabotage him behind the scenes. He's reaching out to investors now? Sonia asked. Apparently. What do you want to do? Jamal stared at the screen, then shook his head. Let it play out. Forward it to legal. If he crosses the line into defamation, we act. Otherwise, we stay focused. You sure? I've waited my whole life to build something real. I won't let a bitter man burn it down. That night, Jamal sat in his penthouse apartment, city lights glowing outside the floor-to-ceiling windows. The silence was comforting, but not empty. He stared at a photograph of his younger self taped to the fridge. Skinny, awkward, wearing hand-me-downs, clutching a cheap science fair trophy like it was Olympic gold. He poured himself a glass of water, then sat on the couch. He wasn't just building for himself anymore. He was building to make sure no one like that boy in the picture would be forgotten, silenced, or underestimated again. And if that meant exposing every crack in the system, every relative willing to sell out family for fear of being eclipsed, so be it. He was ready. The morning of the formal investor summit arrived with an eerie stillness in the air. JC Systems was set to unveil its newest initiative, a tech platform connecting underrepresented students directly with paid remote internships in Silicon Valley. It had the potential to disrupt the traditional recruiting pipeline, and more importantly, it would bypass gatekeepers who often blocked access to talent from less prestigious schools. The venue was sleek, glass and steel towering over downtown Atlanta, humming with industry buzz. Media crews had been invited. Key VCs were flying in, and most notably, members of the Carter family had RSVP'd under the pretense of supporting Jamal's work, though Jamal knew better. He arrived in a crisp, tailored Navy suit, no flashy watch, no bodyguards, just the quiet weight of purpose. Marcus walked beside him, now officially part of the strategy team. Malik and Sonia followed behind, handling press and security logistics. "You good?" Marcus asked as they stepped into the elevator. Jamal nodded once. "I've never been more ready." On the 40th floor, the summit buzzed with polished attendees. White men in tailored suits, black entrepreneurs in sharp blazers, women in silk blouses tapping away on tablets. A large digital screen displayed the bold title, Access, Redefining Opportunity. As Jamal stepped onto the small stage and took the mic, the room gradually silenced. He began slowly, deliberately. "When I was 9 years old, I watched a guidance counselor throw away my scholarship application. She didn't think I'd be accepted anywhere worth applying to." He paused. "I didn't tell her that I'd been building computers out of scrap parts in my uncle's garage, that I'd already taught myself C++. I didn't say anything. I just watched. I remembered." The room leaned in. That same counselor now sits on the admissions board at a university that uses our system to find overlooked talent, and she doesn't even know that the boy she dismissed is the one who built it. A smattering of murmurs swept through the audience. "But this isn't about proving people wrong," Jamal continued. "It's about proving the system itself can be rewritten." He outlined the features of the platform: AI matching algorithms, mentorship pipelines, peer networks, corporate partnerships that guaranteed paid work. But he saved the final twist for last. Every dollar of investor money is matched with a reinvestment into our social equity fund, because access without sustainability is a trap. "This isn't charity, this is strategy." The room erupted in applause, but in the back, a man stood up, clapping slowly, face smug beneath his expensive sunglasses. Louis Carter. The room noticed the sudden tension. Cameras turned. Louis adjusted his tie and walked toward the front, cutting a path through the crowd like a wolf in a sheepfold. "I think it's time we talk about the truth," Louis said loudly. "This whole operation looks good, sure. But how do we know it's not just smoke and mirrors?" Gasps. Eyes darted to Jamal. The energy changed. "This is the same Jamal who was kicked out of his own family home, the same one who's never been stable, and now he wants our money, our trust without transparency." "What's really going on behind the scenes?" Jamal didn't flinch. He calmly turned to the media projector behind him and tapped a few keys. A live feed appeared. It was a legal statement from JC Systems' external audit firm, dated that morning, showing clean books, surplus capital, and multi-million-dollar impact returns. Then another slide. A list of donors, community boards, and tech companies endorsing the initiative. Then the kicker, an email thread, real, time-stamped, between Louis and 3 PE firms, showing Lewis attempting to sabotage JC Systems' valuation and anonymously tip off reporters about fabricated scandals. A hush fell over the room. "I've spent years building this because I knew someone like Louis would come along," Jamal said, his voice even. "Someone who would rather tear down family than see another black man succeed without them." Lewis turned pale. For a second, he looked like he might speak, but Jamal kept going. "We talk about gatekeepers and systemic bias. But sometimes the real enemies are the people who look like us, people who can't stand to see us rise." Security gently approached Louis. The audience, silent seconds before, now broke out in shocked chatter. Phones recorded. Journalists typed furiously. Investors whispered. Jamal turned back to the crowd. "This isn't about revenge. It's about resilience. We've spent too long being overlooked, underestimated, written off. That ends today. Not just for me. For every kid who's been told they don't belong." The entire room stood and applauded. As Louis was escorted out quietly, red-faced and muttering, Jamal turned to his team and nodded. Back to work. Later that evening, as twilight settled over the skyline, Jamal and Marcus stood on the rooftop of JCHQ, watching the lights flicker on across the city. "You could have embarrassed him more," Marcus said. "Why didn't you go harder?" Jamal took a sip of water, watching the stars come out. "Because the goal isn't to humiliate. It's to outlast." Marcus exhaled a slow laugh. "You're different, man." "No, I'm just free." And for the first time in a long while, Jamal felt exactly that. The sun broke through a thin layer of clouds as Jamal stepped out of the building, a calm, early morning breeze sweeping through the concrete canyons of downtown Atlanta. The summit was behind him. Louis had been exposed. Investors had doubled down on their commitment. Media headlines buzzed with phrases like "Black tech visionary shakes up Silicon Valley" and "family power dynamics exploded on stage." But none of that mattered to Jamal in that moment. What mattered was something quieter. He had reclaimed something no amount of money could buy, his own narrative. Later that week, the Carter family held a private dinner at Aunt Rena's estate, the very same home where the reunion had been held just a week before. This time there were no party balloons, no champagne flutes, no laughter. Just stiff silence and the clinking of utensils. Jamal had received an invitation, personally written by Rena, asking him to return. At first he had planned to ignore it. But something in the handwriting, its familiar loops, the tremble in the ink, made him pause. Now, he stood outside the heavy front door, pausing for a long moment before knocking. Malik stood beside him, his arm crossed, lips tight.